Trustee Eck.
Want to see if this works? Yes.
Trustee Kennedy.
Present.
Trustee Fairman.
Here.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Here.
Mayor Hinshaw's present. You have a quorum, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. So I want to welcome everybody to this meeting. I want to go over the kind of the format for the meeting. Like with our meetings, we have 2 public comments at the beginning of the meeting and at the last village board meeting. And I believe 4 of the 6 trustees said that they did not like it, but we did not have a clear understanding of how to change the resolution or what it should be. So tonight we have a presentation by Strand. We'll have questions from the board after that or further information. So we are working on trying to get to a resolution for the meeting tomorrow night. So I know some of you were told there'd be a vote tonight, but there is Thursday night, not tomorrow night. There is no vote tonight. The board can try to work on what they want the resolution to be, and we have some tools to help with that, but there is no vote on that. The vote will be Thursday night at the village board meeting. And there is nothing, again, that says the board has to have a resolution. So we started with one. If the board doesn't want one, we don't have to do one. So that's why we are here tonight. I think I got anything. John, did I miss anything? All right, so at this point in the meeting, we have public comments. If you don't mind, please come into the podium, state your name and address, and again, 3 minutes, please. Thank you. Yes, Ward.
I moved to Indian Head Park about 12 or 13 years ago, and I actually moved here because it was the sweetest bedroom community in the area. It's wonderful. But I have 2 questions, and one of them is this a done deal with Wolf Road? Honestly, I need the truth. I'm asking the board members and you, is widening Wolf Road, taking out trees, bicycle path, walking path, is it a done deal or not?
This project is not a done deal yet. It is phase 1, which is preliminary engineering. There's phase 2, which is design engineering, which has not been funded yet by the county, nor has construction funds, which would be phase 3, committed for this project. Wolf Road does need repair work. It is in very poor condition. The county will bring it up to current standards. However, the design is yet to be submitted to
Over 700 signature roadway that is well designed and fits into the natural landscapes of Indian Head Park. The currently proposed plans for the 5-lane and 3-lane roadways do not meet the needs of our residents. The wants of this group are a 5-foot sidewalk and no multi-use path or alternating sidewalks based on what will fit to accommodate routes to school. Absolutely no resident ROW acquisition. Preservation of trees along Wolf Road and actual plans for landscaping and hardscaping, not the promise that it will be done after the road is finished. A safe and resurfaced Wolf Road. No increase in truck traffic, specifically large trucks. A comprehensive current analysis of what is essential for the residents of Indian Head Park. Traffic, turn and crash statistics of pedestrians and bicycle behavior and volume. Stormwater management that addresses the issues of flooding and drainage. We would also like to be able to see the actual written comments that were sent either via email or handwritten that were submitted to the village via the Strand email site. We would also like to see a creation of a steering committee composed of residents and trustees to provide a more transparent and open process that supports dialogue and advocacy with resident preferences prior to moving to phase 2. What we don't want is the 5 or 3-lane road as currently proposed. And we don't want the village board to advance any plans until a steering committee is formed and the resident.
Dale Holmquist, 11131 Indian Woods Drive. I'd like to do a recap. on some of the concerns we have about the drainage issues. The expansion of 294 is not even close to completion, so Road, Flag Creek, and it's 7300 South near Indian Woods. More severe storms are occurring. Matt from Strand has acknowledged that, and this must be taken into account before any road redesign is approved. The EPA Clean Water Act must be upheld. It is the law. Water flow and any increase in volume of water into Flag Creek cannot occur. Every local and federal agency must be involved early in this process to protect our investments, and we will hold you to that. Keep in mind, the northern elevation at Plainfield Road is 100 feet higher than the southernmost elevation in our village at 7300 South, and that is street level, not creek level. That equates to a topography change as tall as a 10-story building based on our current road. Expanding our road, losing tons of green space, destroying mature trees, plus increasing the amount of displaced bridges have to handle any new problems created by any new project. Lastly, the hydraulic and drainage study reports and other reports paid for during the Phase 1 IGA were not shared or discussed. They should detail current and future conditions but are still not available. How can a road project be designed without first fully studying and understanding topography, drainage, water, and sewer retention needs? The design approach is flawed. Residents and businesses alike have petitioned against these two proposed plans. We need a better redesigned plan. Please listen to your community. Destroying the unique character of our village is not an option. Thank you.
I'm Tom Davis, and my wife Lori and I live at 6482 Apache Drive. We've been residents here for 53 years and love the place, absolutely love the town. I'd like to open with a kind of a broad question that basically said we're looking at this 3-lane option, possibly the 5-lane, but I think that that's pretty much dead from what we've been told before by John and some of the others. Why do we want to do, when I say we, the village, why do we want to do anything that is going to encourage more truck traffic? And the way I'm understanding and looking at the layouts, we're encouraging more truck traffic by wider lanes, and as somebody said earlier in another meeting, if you build it, they will come. And one of our members is in the trucking business, and he has affirmed that on a number of occasions. A couple of statistics that I found interesting on the State of Illinois website was people killed or injured in trailer truck accidents totaled, this is from 2018, which is the only figures that I found on the site, 4,715 out of a total of 12,200 and some accidents. That's roughly a third of trailer truck accidents include bodily injury or death. That's a pretty significant number. What are the causes? Causes of truck accidents. According to the National Highway Transportation Safety Association, driver attention, it's actually distractions and inattention. And I'm thinking now of kids crossing the street, walking up and down the street if we have sidewalks that are not properly protected. Another cause is turns taken too wide, overloaded trailers, speeding. There's a whole list on the website. There's a whole list of 20 different causes of trailer truck accidents. 87% of all trailer truck accidents are from driver negligence. And again, I'm thinking of the school along Plainfield, right here where we are, at Wolf Road, children crossing, walking, biking, hiking, all that. there's other issues that I think encourage, if we do this wide turn route, there's other areas and factors in our area that would encourage trucks. We've got 2 quarries within about 5 miles. We have the UPS facility right nearby over here. We have I-55, 294, feeding traffic various ways of crisscrossing our area. And if we make Wolf Road wider, that's going to cause, it's going to, I think, accelerate the use of our road by heavy trucks. Safety should be first. And my thought is we need to first look and study Strand's proposals to see exactly what safety factors are encompassed. Are we going to have flashing lights where children are crossing?
Tom,
are we going to have signage?
You're over 3 minutes if you could.
I'm sorry, let me wrap
Thank
up. The last point is simply to focus on safety and to take a look at our option that we want as a more viable than either 5-lane or 3-lane. Thank you.
My name is Laura Turk at 6301 Blackhawk Trail. And I want to be clear that there's a distinction between a roadwork project and children's safety, and I don't know why it is that the residents are being pitted against each other under this language. And I'm going to ask that we be clear that there's a distinction. This is a roadwork project and is not about children's safety. I also want to be clear and ask that we hold each other accountable that the one data point that's being used, that 70 support count of cars on the road. And knowing how this is being used, I rescind my survey response. So take me out of that. Less than 7% of people said that they support initiatives on Wolf Road. Let's be clear, it's not 70%. Let's just continue the use of that number and that statistic. And when it comes to safety, overwhelmingly, everyone supports the sidewalks. Sidewalks are here. And because this project is not happening and sidewalks aren't coming in tomorrow, that 700 plus people who signed this petition are also willing to show up for the people who want sidewalks and get creative and figure out a way to make that happen so there is safe passage. Part of that initiative is let's figure it out. Just as I'm willing to show up here for my neighbors and speak in front of people I don't know, I'm willing to show back up here at the Highlands School and demand that the Board of Education provide a busing service or whatever is needed to have safe passage to school until we can figure out appropriate sidewalks, because road work project and children's safety are separate issues, and we support children's safety. We do not support this road work project. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy Jo Wittenberg, 6120 Timber Ridge Court, and I'd like to talk a little bit about process from the Wolf Road Advocacy Group. The residents of Indian Head Park have a right to know whether the current board member
Standards with a project like a road, and so they have certain parameters. And again, if I can defer to Matt, I know he has a slide on this and he will cover this, but the standards have changed for Wolf Road.
In a park-like setting. Officials and residents of the village of Indian Head Park have continued to maintain a strong focus on the Native American tradition of respect for the environment and preservation of natural beauty. This has been a very emotional topic for my family and for myself, and I feel like it has been about money. We needed the grant originally, and that's why we have the sidewalk in Acacia that many of the residents opposed. And now I have heard you, Mayor Hinshaw, mention the master sidewalk plan that was unanimously voted on, and that is the reason that you have stated several times to me that we need to go forward with this project. Well, this is more than a master sidewalk plan. There was no unanimous vote on a Wolf Road expansion project. There was no unanimous vote on a 10-foot wide bike path. And I think that perhaps at the beginning of this process, or perhaps during...
And safety are the main issue here, so not much of in size.
So whatever we can do to work with you, I look forward to working with you guys on this capacity. Thank you.
Craig?
I wanted to, my name is Craig Fisher. I live at 11251 Plainfield Road. Gosh, we've been living there 30 years now. I wanted to respond to comments made by Rita, Trustee Farrell here last time. She had a very heartfelt complaint about some of the rude behavior at the meeting that was held at the Congregational Church. And I have to agree that it was bad. And I would have to apologize for the rude people there, Rita. It was bad and didn't happen last time. Hopefully it won't happen tonight or ever again. The second thing is that you raised concerns, Rita raised concerns that there was a lot of anger at the Board of Trustees. And I could just say that I've never talked to anybody here or anybody who's ever been angry at you yourself. I don't think that people are targeting you or Brenda over here or really most members of the Board of Trustees. What people are, if I could jump in, upset about that three folks up here held secret meetings hidden from knowledge, secret meetings with the board, with the Cook County over the period of a year and a half, working on this, and this is the best they could do. I mean, come on, guys. You know, it's kind of like the T-shirt. My parents went to Disneyland, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. Thank you.
We got Tim coming up, sir. He was in the back making his way up.
My name is Tim Kizavat. My wife and I, Sharon, live at 1 Stonehearth Lane. I wanted to make a comment about the initial public improvement, the public involvement recap that's noted here. Can you imagine the noise of trucks accelerating to go north on Wolf Road and also trying to decelerate and brake coming down to Joliet Road? I hate to think of the noise that they're going to make. I think this whole project is full of noise and air pollution. And air pollution is obviously something that's very important. Once you take the trees out of the east side of Wolf, what's left is a barrier to absorb that. And what happens to the people who have this much room in their backyard? They're going to take it right down to the end here. Also, on this page it says that there would be no, converting an existing 2-lane roadway to a 3-lane roadway with a center 2-way left turn lane is not anticipated to cause any appreciable differences in traffic volumes, including truck traffic, beyond what is already projected for the 2050 design year. How do they think they can understand how much is going to happen between now and 2050?
Stepanik to Buttonwood. I have a question to all of you. There are 3 lines that are projected. All of you are driving a car, I assume. How do you see passing? Do you know how many accidents happen on a 3-lane highway? The sidewalk is something wonderful that is going to hopefully done. But how do you handle 3 lines? As a driver, what do you have? What's happening? I would like an answer to that, that's all.
The third lane is not a path.
I don't know how that word got around that there was going to be some decisions made this week, and I know that some people that apparently came from vacation to be here to make sure that they would be here to take part in to come tomorrow, be building the road. I think that's inappropriate.
Just so you know, the meeting, I mistakenly said tomorrow, but it's Thursday night.
Thursday. Okay.
And I apologize for my mistake. And I don't know how the word got out that there would be a decision tonight or a vote, but that did not come from the village board or the village office.
Okay. Have you issued an email or a message to the members, to the people that live in this town, to tell them when those days are? I haven't seen any notice.
It is posted on the village's website and on the window for Village Hall. We also have the Simplicity app, so if you've signed up for that, you would have gotten meeting notices.
Would have been nice to put a sign by the entrances to the different parts by different entrances to the village. I think I don't go by the Village Hall, although I walk a lot, and I would imagine the sign isn't too big, but I would expect that you would have a bigger sign and try to make the information more available to the citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like I say, this is out of line.
Thank you for patiently waiting.
Who said I'm patient? Anyway, I found out about
Could I get
all
your
the-
name, please?
Oh, Cynthia Svec, S-V-E-C. Everyone spells it wrong. 1 Cherrywood Court, Indian Head Park. I'm at Acacia. I have nothing planned. I just came up out of the spur of the moment. I'm sitting next to a friend of mine that's lived in her house for 50 years. And she's sitting next to a lady that's only lived here 1.5 years. And you guys want to tear their houses down. You want to raise them to make room for a turn lane or what? Nobody even talked about it. Is that still on the agenda or what?
I'm not sure. There was 2 houses that were identified in the 5-lane alternative,
Yeah.
but that 5-lane alternative is not being pursued. So I believe the answer to your question is no. There are no houses being torn down.
Thank you. Who's one of the owners?
Sandy Hayes, 6634 Cochise Drive. The 3-lane still has you coming into my backyard.
No, Ward, we still have first-timers, and I don't know, Ward, if we're going to get to a second time because we are running long. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carol Rosentretter, and I've been a resident for 20 years. Love Indian Head Park. I'm so proud of the way this village has come together and made themselves clear. One of the things that
of us, why don't we mirror our neighbors? And Mr. DeRocher, we were on the phone for a good 10 minutes. And what did you tell me that Cook County wants? A turning lane for the trucks onto Wolf Road. And I said, oh, a new 394 we're going to have. And you said, well, I don't think so. I don't think it will increase truck traffic. Really? Really? Do you really want to stand by that? Because, you know, we're not stupid. And when those trucks, there's a red light, and you see those trucks north and south stopped on Wolf Road as we look out, and they're sitting there idling, and all that smoke's coming out of their pipe, 65-footers. You tell me if a kid's not going to be hurt or an adult. I hope you get sued, because we are against this.
We have another Ward. Ward, we may not get to it because we have a lot of first-time people.
Hello, my name is Thomas McCurchie, and I live at 25 Heatherwood Court. Like everybody else in Heatherwood Court, I oppose this whole entire thing. I lived in Edgewood Valley condos right next to 294 for 24 years. When they tore the trees down and put a wall up, it made no difference in sound. I dreamed of moving to Indian Head Park, living so close to it, and I achieved that dream this last October. I don't want to have that dream ruined by constant noise. Constant noise. If you remove them trees, no matter what you do, it will constantly be loud to all the residents there at Acacia. And also, we don't want to wait 20 minutes to get out of our entrance.
Patrick.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Patrick Ferguson, 48 Elmwood Court. I'm in the Acacia subdivision. Unfortunately, I was one of those people at the Lyonsville meetings that did lose my cool, and for that I sincerely apologize. I appreciate the committee's time tonight in allowing the public to actually speak and feel like they've been heard. One suggestion I would make, that I did make at the last meeting, is what would it cost for the Village of Indian Head Park to take over ownership of Wolf Road between Joliet Road and Plainfield Road? I believe that information should be gathered and shared. It sounds like the majority of people are opposed to a major widening and improving of Wolf Road. So my question would be, if the road becomes the ownership of Indian Head Park and we do nothing more than repave the road and add a sidewalk, how does that impact each and everyone's wallet in this room? Thank you.
Pat, Mr. Ferguson, I can answer that very quickly.
Certainly.
I approached the county on this very topic, and one of the higher level department heads at the county somewhat sarcastically said, "Sure, we would love you to have it." It would be financially devastating to the village if we were to take over ownership of Wolf Road, even from Joliet to Plainfield Road. It would just be a financial nightmare for us.
You're not answering my question. Numbers.
I have no idea what the numbers are, but I can tell you that just redoing Acacia Drive to reconstruct it, we're just talking about Acacia Drive, it's like $1.4 million. So the village couldn't afford to do that.
But you're saying the village can't afford it. Everyone behind me has the checkbooks and the wallets. If they don't want something and they're willing to open their pocketbooks so that it doesn't happen, that needs to be heard also. And you should gather the exact numbers so that someone can make a decision. Do I want my taxes to go up to keep the same look in the village as it is now? Or do I not want them to go up and realize we've got to let the county come in and do the expansion and the improvements? So I think all of that information should be out there for every one of the residents to give significant or proper input. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Yes, sir, coming in from the bleachers.
Hi, my name is John Bidding. I live at 6301 Blackhawk Trail. I have two requests from the board. First request, hire an independent survey company to actually hear what your residents want, not some very strange, ambiguous questionnaire that came through the newspaper periodical you guys publish. The second one, have a study on what it actually impacts property values here for everyone, not just the people on Wolf Road, not just the people in Acacia, throughout. It's going to affect people. So you might as well disclose, have a study, do an independent study so that we can all understand what's happening here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Again, we do, yes, coming from the back, ma'am. I'm sorry, you'll be next. Hey, Chris.
I actually didn't plan on speaking tonight, but Chris Treviliot, 6477 Thunderbird. Just one question. I know you mentioned that there's a vote on Thursday night. Is that correct? Now, is it true that not all the board members will be attending?
I've had one board member tell me they will not be there. I've heard of another board member, but so that's the answer that I have. I don't have a tally.
No, but I guess the point is, if we're not in a real hurry, this preliminary stage, does it make sense to postpone this by a week or till they come back so that we get the vote of all 5 trustees?
Well, I think you mean all 6 trustees.
Sure, but I mean we should have then all 6 trustees, so then we get the official where everyone weighs in.
The board can do whatever the board wants.
Right.
But
postpone it by a week or 2 weeks till someone gets back from vacation, so that everyone gets, so it's fair.
There again, as I said earlier in the meeting, there is nothing driving the board passing a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want to pass a resolution, they can. And I'm on the board, but I don't get a vote unless it's tied, right?
Right.
So if the board wants to postpone it, table it for a month, they can. They can table it 3 months. I've heard an idea that they want to table it until the committee is formed and the committee comes back. So all those are possible.
Sure.
So I think the answer to your question is yes.
Yeah, I just think it's fair if every board member got an official vote versus you breaking a tie. Let's hear the yeas and nays from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you.
Totally agree.
Marlene Rodriguez, 11044 West 72nd. I didn't come here planning to speak tonight, but my fellow residents have motivated me to say a word or two. What I'm going to speak to is based solely on what should be the education of people who are conducting surveys, because I feel like I get the sense that you care about your community and what they want. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So there's an easy way to find out what your community wants. And it's not surveying 200 people and deciding that 70% of that survey is in favor of putting in a 5-lane road. Okay. There's this thing called, and it's somewhat mind-blowing to people who haven't heard about it, but it's very common to, I'll bet, about exactly that number, 70% of our community. It's called an unbiased survey. And I'm going to read, if you'll allow me, because I'm not a great speaker. For any type of survey research, the goal is to get feedback from people who represent the audience you care about, in this case, your community. Or in statistical terms, your sample. Because there's a sampling bias that occurs when you only get feedback from a specific portion of your audience, ignoring all others. Survey bias is technically defined as an error introduced into sampling or testing by selecting or encouraging one outcome or another, and the answers thereof. Encouragement towards a specific outcome is what leads to survey bias. Surveys participants answer inaccurately and that skews the data, and it makes meaningful analysis, or what's meant to be meaningful, impossible to understand. There's two ways that can go wrong. There's the response bias, where there's something about how the actual survey or questionnaire is constructed that encourages a certain type of answer, leading to a measurement error, which I believe strongly is what happened here. But I also think that there was a survey bias where the results seem to have been skewed in a certain way because you only captured feedback from that certain segment or certain audience. How can we avoid this? We can't do anything until we have a full unbiased representation of a plan and an unbiased survey, or even better, a residential vote on the issue.
And you're at
Now,
3 minutes.
I'm coming to you as a parent who bikes and walks with my child to school, crossing Wolf Road every single school day, and now in the summer with the summer academies. Okay? I don't know how I'm going to get to and from and walk around construction with or without a car. And I don't know how on those days that my daughter wants to walk with her friend, I'm going to even allow that, given the dangers and the timeline of any type of construction. If it was constructive and it had our children at heart, and you were taking safety considerations into account, then I could see how that would be a benefit to the community.
You're over 3 minutes. if you
Okay,
don't
I've
mind
dealt
that.
with Eileen, and Eileen's been very helpful with children
You
at
are
play
over
signs.
4 minutes now. Thank you.
Okay,
Well, please-
okay.
please
I'm
just
actually done. That was my closing.
Just adhere to the rules. Thank you.
That's okay. That was my closing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We have a second time. What's that? No. We have a second community comment, or public comments, excuse me, at the end of the meeting. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt from Strand Associates. And Matt has asked that we save questions from the board till the end. So he's going to run through his presentation and then take questions. Is that right, Matt?
All right, can everyone hear me? Okay, perfect, thanks. As Mayor Henshaw mentioned, I am Matt Gadziak, and I am with Strand Associates. I'm here with Tony Spinelli. Tony Spinelli is the consultant village engineer from Strand for the village, and I am the lead project engineer on the project. And I'm here today to provide an overview and an update to the village board on the Wolf Road Phase 1 study. David, if you go to the next slide. Perfect. So this presentation is titled Wolf Road Phase 1 Study, Overview and Update. Next slide. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is to set the stage of where we are and where we are not. So I'll talk about what is completed in a Phase 1 study, and then what is completed in the Phase 2 design engineering, which is the next step after the Phase 1 study is completed and approved. Then I'll talk about a few of the project team goals, talk about the purpose and the need of the project, summarize the initial public involvement, and then talk about the roadway typical section alternatives that have already been presented at the previous meeting opportunities. Next slide. Okay, so what is completed in a Phase 1 study and where are we? So completed in a Phase 1 study, moving down the list, is data collection, review of existing conditions, identification of the purpose and the need of the project, and then based on that purpose and the need, identification of preliminary alternatives. And then once those preliminary alternatives have been identified, then there's the initial public involvement where those preliminary alternatives can be presented. And that's where we're at right now. Where the next steps of where we're going is going to be kind of ongoing public involvement. So there will be modification, refinement, and identification of impacts for those preliminary alternatives, and then additional coordination with the Illinois Department of Transportation, or IDOT, and the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA. And then based on the refinement that we've done, identification of impacts, then we will make a recommendation for what the preferred alternative is. And in the next steps, I know there has been a lot of public feedback that we have received on the project, and even tonight, requests for more involvement from the public. So I guess what I can say is that the project team is currently evaluating the most effective way to increase the public involvement during those next steps, and we anticipate having an update to share of kind of what that plan is for moving forward within the next couple of months. Can you go back to that slide, please? Thanks. And then after the preferred alternative the recommendation has been made to IDOT and FHWA and has been approved by them, and we understand what the final impacts of the preferred alternative are, that's when we will come back for the final public involvement event to present what those specific final impacts are, and then everything will culminate in a report that is called the Project Development Report, which, again, is submitted to IDOT and FHWA for their review and approval. And then it ultimately ends up in what is called a design approval, which can be a little bit misleading for the phase one, but that is essentially the approval that you have to move into the next phase of design. Next slide. Okay, so after we receive design approval, what is completed in the phase two design engineering? And that is the design continuation of the engineering studies that have been completed in the phase one. Any land acquisition, whether that is permanent right-of-way, temporary easement, permanent easement, temporary land use, that would be identified and negotiated with individual property owners. And in the phase two design engineering is where there will be the specific preparation of the contract drawings. So it'll be roadway contract drawings, structure contract drawings, but also the landscaping contract drawings for where those specifics would be known of if a tree is being impacted at this specific location, it'll be replaced at this specific location, and this is the type of tree that would go back, for example. In addition, that's when the specifications and the final estimates would be prepared. Once the contract drawings, specification, and estimates are prepared, there would be the contract advertisement and the collection of construction bids, and then the awarding of the construction contract to the lowest responsible bidder for the project to move into the next phase of construction, or phase three. Next slide. Okay, so here are a couple of the goals for the project team. So we are evaluating the Wolf Road Corridor in the context of Cook County's 2040 Long-Range Transportation Plan, which is called Connecting Cook County. And in this long-range transportation plan, there's a specific policy goal to prioritize alternative modes of transportation, including walking and biking. And along the corridor, one of the goals of the project is to implement multifaceted corridor improvements, including pedestrian and bicycle accessibility, traffic operations, safety, drainage, pavement conditions, and any structures along the corridor. Also, one of the goals is to construct the corridor to the current standards. And then finally, to engage the municipalities along the corridor, which are Indian Head Park, Burr Ridge, Countryside, and Willow Springs, to collect the stakeholder input. Next slide. So I'll talk about kind of the process that we're following and how that leads us to how we got to the information that has to be presented to follow the process. So the process that we're following is laid out in the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, of 1969, which established a framework for environmental planning and decision-making by federal agencies. The preliminary alternatives identification and refinement to get to the preferred alternative are driven by the project's purpose and need. So on the right side of the screen is kind of the flow of how the project is processed. And first, it's analyzing existing conditions, moving on to establishing what the purpose and the need of the project are, then moving on to identifying the preliminary alternatives, moving on to identifying the preliminary alternatives, which is where we're at right now, moving on to evaluation and refinement of the preliminary alternatives, and then with all of that, with the community input and the agency input throughout the process, leads us to when we can make the recommendation for the preferred alternative. Next slide. So what is the purpose and the need of the Wolf Road improvements? The purpose of the Wolf Road improvements is to provide improved corridor operational efficiency and safety and enhance corridor pedestrian and bicycle accommodation and safety. The need for these Wolf Road improvements is that the intersection operations are not sufficient for future traffic demands, and that the corridor total crash rate and injury crash rate exceed statewide averages, and that pedestrian and bicycle accommodations are inadequate. So now I'll talk about a recap of the initial public involvement activities that we've had to date. So at the first public information meeting, the open house that was held at Indian Head Park Village Hall, there were 102 attendees. At the town hall meeting that was held at the Lionsville Church, that was more of the Q&A session, there were 170 attendees at that meeting. And from that, and the open comment period that we had for 5 weeks, from the initial day of the first public information meeting until when it closed, we received 332 individual comments that were submitted, in addition to 3 petitions that had a total of 764 signatures on the petitions. And with all the comments that we received, we had to comb through and kind of distill the comments down into the core categories that the comments that we're discussing. And oftentimes, comments that we received touched on many different issues. So the numbers that are shown on the screen there, those aren't going to add up to 332, because sometimes a comment only touched on one issue, but sometimes a comment touched on 10 different issues. So we tried to have a methodical way to summarize all the comments into a consistent format to provide a nice summary. So the top 5 comments that we received were negativity about the 5-lane typical section, safety concerns for pedestrians and or vehicles, positivity about the inclusion of a sidewalk on the project, concerns about landscaping, vegetation, or wildlife, and then the 5th to round out the top 5 was just general opposition to the project or do nothing. Next slide. So I'll talk about, in addition to those top 5 comment categories that we received, I'll talk about a few more in specific detail that were hot button issues that came up. Even if they weren't in the top 5 comments, they were discussions that many members of the project team had. So one of them was the inclusion of why we included a 2-way left turn lane. And I'll say specifically the information here talks about the segment between Joliet Road and Plainfield Road, because I think that's the area of most concern that at least I've heard. So the IDOT provides 2 kind of design manuals, and in those manuals there are, which are the Bureau of Local Roads and Streets manual and the IDOT Bureau of Design and Environment manual. They provide some guidance on when it is advantageous to include a 2-way left turn lane along a corridor. So one piece of guidance is areas with substantial mid-block left turns. And along the corridor, between Joliet and Plainfield Road, which is 0.9 miles in length, there are 10 neighborhood entrance intersections within that stretch. The second piece of guidance is if a roadway is a 2-lane undivided urban arterial. And that urban arterial is the classification that IDOT has for the roadway. That's not something that we are looking at the roadway and establishing that. And the roadway in this segment between Joliet and Plainfield is classified as a 2-lane urban arterial. The next piece of guidance of when it's advantageous to include a 2-way left turn lane is for traffic volumes that are between 5,000 and 14,000 average daily traffic. And that's basically the number of vehicles that are passing through a segment every single day. And in the segment between Joliet and Plainfield, the ADT, or average daily traffic, is 12,900, and right within that range that's provided. And then the last piece of information that IDOT gives that we meet is when the design speed for a roadway is between 25 and 45 miles an hour. And within the segments between Joliet and Plainfield, the design speed is 35 miles an hour. So with that, I've included a snip here from one of the exhibits that have been presented at the previous meetings. And this was one of the big aerial roll plot views that were laid out on the table. So I've included the segment along Wolf Road between Algonquin Trail and Eastgate Road. And in this segment, for example, it would not be possible to have a northbound left turn lane to get into Eastgate Road, because that would conflict with the southbound left turn lane to get into the Algonquin Trail intersection. And by not being able to have those two dedicated left turn lanes, this is an area where it would be advantageous to have the two-way left turn lane, so that there's not there's the option for both to occur along a corridor. In areas where the intersections are further offset, the area that is where this two-way left turn lane would be, if, let's say, Algonquin Trail was not there, the left turn into Eastgate Road would be a dedicated left turn lane because there's nothing conflicting that. Next slide. So the next big picture comment that we received was about truck traffic, which was again another concern that we heard here tonight. So Wolf Road does not currently have any truck traffic restrictions on it, and as part of these improvements, Cook County cannot implement truck traffic restrictions. And converting the roadway from an existing two-lane road to a three-lane roadway with a center turn lane is not anticipated to cause any appreciable difference in traffic volumes, including truck traffic, beyond what is already projected for the 2050 design year. And this was what we had coordinated with CMAP, who is the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. We received projected traffic data for what would the road look like if it were just two lanes, and then what would the volumes come back with if it was a three-lane roadway, and they were virtually identical. For the final concern, big picture concern, was about drainage. So as part of these improvements, the drainage improvements will consist of switching from open drainage ditches to a closed drainage system with curb and gutter and storm sewer that would be buried underground. And this proposed drainage system will be designed in accordance with the IDOT Bureau of Local Roads and Streets Manual, the IDOT Drainage Manual, and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago standards. And this proposed drainage system will be reviewed by Cook County, IDOT, and MWRD as necessary. And the drainage improvements will be designed to account for any existing paved area and any additional paved area, and will not have negative impacts on properties within, adjacent to, upstream, or downstream of the project limits. And then the final segment that I'll talk about is the roadway typical sections, and provide some dimensions comparing the existing roadway to what was presented as the alternative 1, what was presented as the alternative 2, and then a summary of those dimensions at the end. So the existing roadway, the lanes, again, this is just the segment between Joliet Road and Plainfield Road. So the existing lanes, there's one lane in each direction with 3-foot wide shoulders. So that gives a total edge-to-edge shoulder width of 30 feet. But when looking at the total cross-section, which includes the open drainage ditches, the total cross-section is approximately 60 feet from the edge of ditch to the edge of ditch. Next slide. For the 5-lane alternative that we presented as alternative 1, The lanes, as proposed, are 11 foot wide, and instead of the open drainage ditch, there's a closed storm sewer system with curb and gutter. And the overall width of the roadway from edge of curb to edge of curb is 60 feet. And then when looking at the overall cross-section width, which would be the edge of the shared use path to the edge of the sidewalk, that is 83 feet. Next slide. David. Oh, okay, here we go. For the alternative 2 that we presented, again, there is 11-foot lanes with curb and gutter and a storm sewer system buried underground, and the overall total roadway width is 38 feet from edge of curb to edge of curb. And when looking at the overall total cross-section width, again, from edge of shared use path to edge of sidewalk, that is 61 feet. So between Joliet and Plainfield, along Wolf Road, typically the Cook County existing right-of-way, which is the property that they already own, is 100 feet wide. And that's 50 foot east of the center line, 50 foot west of the center line. So to summarize in the table, the existing total roadway width and total cross-sectional width are 30 feet and 60 feet. The 5-lane alternative was 60 feet and 83 feet, which is a significant increase from the existing roadway. And I think that is a lot of one of the reasons why there was a lot of feedback, which we have heard on the project, and which could or which would help make the case to IDOT when something like this is presented of why this is not a viable alternative and not what we would recommend. But when looking at the 3-lane alternative, the total roadway width is 38 feet for the roadway and then 61 feet for the total cross-section. So an increase from the existing roadway to the alternative 2, 30 to 38 feet. And then when looking at the overall cross-section, going from 60 to 61 feet, those are much more comparable than the dimensions presented in the alternative 1. Next slide. So I guess with that, I can turn it over to Mayor Hinshaw and continue on with the meeting. Thank you.
I have some questions. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. On excuse me, on slide 6, which says project team goals, the last thing that said to collect shareholder input. Does shareholder input include the 100 people that live on either side of Wolf Road?
Yes, that does.
And was that collected? How was it collected?
By having the open house public meeting that we held and invited the members along Wolf Road to come to the meeting and provide their input.
Was that a separate meeting that I wasn't aware of?
That was the meeting, the open house meeting on April 7th.
Which one was that?
The first meeting that we held at Indian Head Park Village Hall.
Oh, surprise. Were the several associations that have homes along Wolf Road included as stakeholders, and were they solicited for thoughts and comments?
Yes, they received letters.
The homes that are included that were directly along.
Were the associations solicited for as a stakeholder for comments and thoughts in regards to this process?
Yes, I had them on the distribution list to receive letters.
Well, I hate to tell you this, I didn't get one. Did any other association presidents here? Sorry, John. Didn't get them.
So I have a... Oh, go ahead.
Okay. On panel number 9, which is identified as initial public involvement recap, you identify 332 individual comments submitted and spent the last several minutes analyzing those comments. However, the next item on there said that there were over 700 that had signed petitions. There were two petitions, one over 700 that essentially said, let's have a separate group be assembled to provide guidance, and also the 10 association presidents signed a letter individually indicating that they would also like to have a separate group put together in order to advise on this particular project. So in other words, the 332 individual comments were made on a presentation which was alternative to that these over 700 people said, hey, this isn't acceptable as it is, and so we really need to analyze that and come up with another view. So all 332 were based on something that may or may not occur. Is that correct?
I would say the 332 comments were made on the information that we presented, not on any information that if there is anything else to be developed, there's that's not something that information has been collected on yet.
Thank you.
So I have a question. The comments were in a category. You presented to us in a common category chart. Why have you not provided verbatim comments from the residents so that way we could see what they actually said?
The county is reviewing them as we speak. I do not.
But were they not given to Strand? How could he put together a common category? What was he reviewing in order to put that chart together?
We do have all the comments, but typically whenever kind of the next step after receiving all these comments is that responses are provided to each individual person that provided a comment.
But being on the board, I wanted to see the individual comments. I didn't want to see a common category. I wanted to see what the residents had to say.
And those are coming, right? Yeah. You wanna say that?
So
I don't
guess
have
the-
those comments yet.
But
No,
we-
but Strand has them.
But we will be getting them, right?
You will be getting them.
Are you done, Brenda? I'm sorry.
When are we going to be receiving them?
I don't know.
Strand, can you tell us when we're going to be receiving them?
I'd say the comments that we received and that we have, Indian Head Park, although they're the lead agency, Cook County is also a key partner in this, and Cook County also has their own process for when they release draft information such as that. And because the comments are still draft, we haven't provided formal responses to them yet. I'd say that decision has to be made in consultation with Cook County and their standard process.
Being on the board, we should be entitled to be able to see those comments. Should we not?
I think we have a duty to see those comments.
Speaking to an attorney, we are entitled to see those comments.
I don't think anybody is saying you're not going to see them. They're not ready now.
You know, those are comments.
when are they gonna
Those
be
were
ready?
comments written by citizens, by residents. And how is it now the property
Yeah,
of
maybe I can help
the
clear this
county?
up. So the county is not going to release the comments until they have had time to get every comment, an answer to every comment. So they're not going to take the first comment and answer that, and go on to the second comment and answer that, and go on to the third. They're compiling all of them, answering everything at once, and then disseminate that information to us. So it will come. It's going to take time. And if it's not here by Thursday, it's not under our control. It's
But
the
how
county.
can we put a common category chart together if we can't see the comments?
Well, so then we're assuming that what Strand is doing is nefarious in some way and incorrect? The county will give us that information.
Can we just see the comments without the responses? I mean, as an elected official, I'd just like to see what comments we got. I'll wait for the responses from the county to each and every question, but I'd just like to see what kind of comments. In addition to listening to everybody in the last 3 meetings, there are written comments, and I've also, and I know all the board members have too, gotten many emails. So I don't know why this seems to be there's a word for it, proprietary information. when it comes from our citizens. But let me just say something else, because obviously we're not getting an answer to that right now. I mean, that was a great presentation, but it was very sterile. And what I didn't see in it was taking those comments, taking all the comments and passion that comes from our citizens at these meetings. There was nothing about that in there. So, I mean, it's a process, right? Well, you've heard from the citizens over the past month or so. Now what are you going to do with it? There's nothing. You're going to take into account X number of people don't want a sidewalk on one side. X number of people want concrete or asphalt. I mean, how do we build a road that way? Help me out.
I think we're being told that next step is to identify preliminary alternatives. So that's what's being done with the information we're gathering here tonight and have been gathering for the last couple of months. I do have a different question. I want to know from Matt, is there any land acquisition projected to be necessary with the second alternative? Because you said that width would only be 1 foot more than what we currently have. Would anybody's yards be encroached into? Do we know what kind of, also do we know about landscaping, how much landscaping would have to be removed, how many trees or any of that?
To answer the first question about, would any potential land acquisition be needed in the second alternative? And I'll say, so the dimension that was provided, the 100-foot existing right-of-way, that is not that's the majority of the corridor between Joliet and Plainfield, but there are some areas where instead of 50 feet on one side, it's only 30 feet on one side. And then even further south through the Burr Ridge area, that varies from 30 feet on each side of the road for a total 60 foot to 100 foot. So it's varying in and out. So even if we have a consistent cross-section and a consistent road that is going through, depending on the specific property limits of each individual property, there could be land acquisition at one property, but not the neighbor. But then the neighbor next to that, there could be, based on where their specific property limits are. So it's not consistent throughout the corridor.
Can we get information on which properties would be affected and how they would be affected so we're able to make proper decisions?
Yes, so the limits of any kind of anticipated land acquisition were identified on the exhibits that were provided.
And they're not acceptable.
And I think they were with a blue line on there. I'd say that is our initial take at it. Our goal with anything is not to acquire any property from a resident. But when there are inconsistencies in how much is available along a roadway, there could be properties where it is needed from there. So, but again, to your second part of your question about do we know specifically at specific properties where those limits are just yet, and things like landscaping and trees, we are not at that point yet. But we need to further refine things so that we can get to the point where at specific properties we will know that, and then that information can be clearly identified on the exhibits and throughout the process so that we can get answers to specific residents on things like that.
Yeah, I have a question. Sorry about that. Looking through this, I'm wondering if there's any consideration given to safe crossing of Wolf Road, so that if we have the sidewalks, there is a safe way to cross it, because without that, it's meaningless. And I didn't see anything in this that talked about safety issues. And was that part of your initial review?
It is a constant conversation with the county. It is a constant conversation with the county about the number of crossings and how to have people cross safely. Right now we have one on the north end of town at Hiawatha at the Heritage Center. We inquired about crossings further south, maybe by Big Bear or further south by Eastgate, which is the southern entrance to Blackhawk Trail. The county has concerns about sight distances and vehicles moving, but those are under consideration as part of this project.
Will they be added to the plans? We can see where they would be and how they would be?
If it is appropriate and safe, they will be added for review by us.
And then I'll also add to that, at the signalized intersection, there would be pedestrian signals and pedestrian push buttons. So at the intersections with Plainfield Road, Joliet Road, and then further south at 79th Street, where there are signalized intersections, there would be signalized pedestrian crossings there as well. But what John was referring to, and I think what you were referring to, is kind of the mid-block crossing where it's not at a signal, but maybe at an intersection and where there would be a need and a desire to cross from one side to the other.
And the conversation I had was specifically the ad hoc push button pedestrian crossing where a person would hit the button and it would light up and then a stop would occur. Normally it wouldn't be a stop light there, but a flashing crossing light.
Thank you.
Matt, I have a question. What is the proper definition for a pedestrian pathway?
I'd say a pedestrian pathway can take many forms. It can take a sidewalk, it can take a shared use path. Those are what could be considered a pedestrian pathway. I guess from my side, from the engineering side, pedestrian pathway can mean many things and could be either of those.
Because when I look it up in the law dictionary, a pedestrian pathway means a paved walkway on the highway distinctly marked by authorized signs or lines or other markings on the surface of the walkway. That is for the use of pedestrians, but it is not a sidewalk. It's a multi-purpose lane. It's not a sidewalk. And that's and the reason why I'm asking you is because that's going to be one of the questions that is going to be asked for us tonight. So I think it needs to be segregated.
I would agree with that.
Thank you.
So for discussion tonight, let's call pathway a hard surface. And then
No, we can't call it a hard surface, a pedestrian and Matt disagreed with what I said.
What I'm trying to drill down is options for the board to choose. And one would be the traditional sidewalk. The other one would be an asphalt pathway, an asphalt structure.
What I had asked was that I would like two different questions added to the list. One would be, would you like a sidewalk on Wolf Road? Or yes or no? Or would you like a multi-use pathway? Because there is a difference, and neither of those are on it.
There is a question.
Yeah, but read the question.
Do you prefer a multi-use pathway with option?
If you guys want to speak into the microphone.
So, yeah, I mean, it does say pedestrian pathway on either side. It talks about concrete or asphalt, either or both. Pedestrian pathway on one side of Wolf Road running the length. Again, concrete. I think it even gets into size.
Okay, but what if I don't want a multi-pathway? This is just tell me what options do I want? Do I want concrete, asphalt? Do I want it 10 feet? Do I want it 8 feet? What if I don't want a multi-pathway?
Well, what would be the alternative then? Nothing?
Sidewalk.
So can I interject here? I think this is all, I object to even discussing all these individual things or taking a vote. Is that what we're going to do, take a vote on each one of these?
We're not voting.
No.
We're just discussing
consensus.
I mean, you're asking us to be impromptu designers or engineers, and we're disregarding the will of the people. I think we need to, I mean it honestly. I'm not here to tell you what I think as Eileen Donnersberger. I'm here to listen to the residents that elected us to come up here. And I think what I'm hearing loud and clear is they want a voice. And so to that end, I've already put a motion on the table for Thursday's meeting that we do that we form a citizens advisory committee. But I want to make sure that we have all the trustees there so we get input from everybody.
So here's my issue with that. I understand what you're saying, and I totally agree. We have had, this is now our fourth meeting that we've talked about this. This was given to us on May 27th. If you had questions and wanted clarification on it, you had nearly 2 weeks to do that. I mean, the whole point of tonight was to try to drill down some of these topics. And if we don't do it, we're just going to keep going around and around and around because somebody's going to come up with an issue that they don't like. If it's asphalt or concrete or 5 feet or 4 feet or whatever, we've got to start drilling down on some of these things or we're never going to get anywhere.
I think that what the Citizens Committee, if we form it, will be the ones, it won't be just citizens. It'll be the citizens, the trustees, Strand, and the county. All the stakeholders get together and look at all the data that you've already provided and come up with an alternative to option, the 3-lane option, and get it done quickly. I mean, if the work is already there, I think we need to all sit down together and come up with something. That's why I'm objecting to these individual things, because I don't know. I mean, how the heck do I know which side of the street it should go on?
Well, we also have to realize that whatever we decide on here, or at any point, it's still going to be up to the county. This is just feedback to them right now. And,
Well,
and
let's
we have a
feedback.
lot of
Let's
time to give more feedback to them. We're in the middle of phase 1. We still have a long way to go to this. And as Matt outlined before, we have the ability as a community to continually give feedback to them along the entire process.
But I don't see the feedback getting to them, and I think, I mean, look at these people, you know, I mean, they want a voice, and why not put them at the table with us and then give it to them? They're not obstructionists. They want to work with us. They're all very intelligent and informed people, and if they sit down with us and help us design it, maybe we'll get something we want. I mean, I'll tell you my personal view, if you want to know my personal view, is tearing up all those trees and everything is ludicrous. I mean, that's what drew most of us to the community. And what I want to see is, I can't sit here and tell you I want a sidewalk here or there, because I don't know where all that stuff is.
Then you can vote no, or you can abstain from it. You can, I mean, we have to keep this process moving. All right, then we won't do anything and the county will just do whatever they want. That's the other option. That's fine, that's what you want. So you want the board to not have any input.
Look, if we form a committee,
Okay, all right.
All right, if we can please, this is a discussion with the board, please. Thank you.
All right, with that, I wanted to give a couple of comments and some clarification on some things. I think we brought it up at one of the last meetings, but I asked Chief Koenig today, as most residents know, we've had cameras on Wolf Road for quite some time now, and he compiled some data. So I wanted to give specifically to the truck traffic concerns. As I've talked to residents in the area, that does seem to be one of the 3 or 4 or 5 hot topic buttons. And the data that we compiled from April 23rd to May 24th was 390,000 license plates were registered in that month period. 32 of them were semi-trailers. Now, when Mike gave me that information, he went on to say that he believed a lot of that was the construction that was happening on Acacia Drive. So in a typical April to May, he thought it might even be less. So as of right now, that equates to 32 out of 390,000 plates in a month's period. So I got on the phone today and I made some phone calls. The first one was to Saya Freight over in Burr Ridge, right off of County Line Road in Frontage. And I talked to Eric Mendoza, the terminal manager over there, explained to him who I was, the project that we were doing. I gave him the guidelines of what it was currently, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, 12 feet width lanes currently, going to 11. So the lanes are actually getting a foot narrower. And the overall spec is 60 feet from ditch to ditch, and this will now be path to path. So the roadway that the trucks would be going down is actually smaller than it is now. And he said he did not anticipate that they would have any use on Wolf Road unless they were specifically delivering or picking up freight. I called Old Dominion off of 47th Street and talked to the dispatch manager there, Frank Connors. He said the same thing. He does not see any reason why any of his guys would be going down Wolf Road based on the numbers that we have right now. I also called UPS. I've heard UPS brought up a few times. I talked to John Farrell, a dock supervisor there. He said there's absolutely no reason why he would see his guys use Wolf Road when they have total and complete access to 294 both north and south and I-55 north and south. I also called Viking Materials in McCook. I did not get a response from them. I will keep leaning on them and see if I can get something, but that's 3 of major trucking companies in our backyard that all came out and said they do not anticipate any additional truck traffic. So just wanted to share that. I did call Vulcan. I did not get a response from Vulcan. So. Yeah, I honestly do think that they would be honest with me, sir. I honestly do. That, what would the benefit of them lying be?
I would also like to add, I think in terms of a committee, I don't know if people were aware of this or not, but there was a committee created by the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways called ImprovePlainfieldRoad.org, which involved, it's a 10-page plan of involvement of the community, of the municipalities, and of the government agencies in the area. The sanitary district, the fire protection districts, the schools, park districts, who are also as part of the committee on a roadway design. It's the county that has the expertise in these matters and has the money to put into these projects. I think that's something that should be approached. It's to be as broad and inclusive as possible. It may take more time, but I believe that we can derive a lot of that. I don't know, the project that's been done so far, I believe the amount that's been spent is about $500,000. The county has paid for all of that. If we have our own committee and decide we want to come up and have additional reviews done, additional studies done, additional reports done, the county may decline to pay for that. And then that's going to be on the village to pay for. I mean, I think we have to be aware of all these things when we're talking about this. And, you know, if that's the case, this board has to decide, do we have that kind of money to put out? That might be something that would have to go to referendum to the entire village. So that's just something I'm putting out there. If you go to ImprovePlainfieldRoad.org, you will see this. I believe there are about 30 people on this committee, and again, it's led by the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways. This is their road, and as Sean said, you know, we have so far we can go with that. And, you know, they're ultimately going to make the decisions here. So I think they need to have heavy involvement in whatever committees we go forward with.
And if I can just add to that and clarify, I actually did get some feedback from the county. I can't remember her name, the woman from the county. It came through County Commissioner Morrison's office, saying that we could form a community advisory committee. She gave several options, and another one was a steering committee or something. I can't remember. But it seemed like the community advisory committee would be the best one. I also heard through Tom that the county suggested or said it would be made up of 30 people, which to me seems excessive. Like, you're really not going to get much done with 30 people, or it's going to take you 5 years. It sounds, you know, I worked in a bureaucracy for 30 years. It moves slowly. So my recommendation was to create this community advisory committee, make it small, with, you know, and I have it written out here for anybody who wants to see it, and give it a deadline to come back to review all this information, and then come back with the revisions to the 3-lane. And I think that between the county, the Indian Head Park, Strand, and the residents, we're going to come up with something that looks great, and it still has the feel of Indian Head Park we want. I know the county talks about replacing trees. How do you replace a 100-year-old tree with a sapling? And that's what we're going to get. So let's look at it realistically. I know Indian Head Park, we're putting together monies every year for landscaping, and we hopefully will continue to do that. But yeah, the county has said that we could do this. I think we should do it.
If I can clarify that in talking to Tara Orban, who is the Transportation and Highways Supervisor, I believe, and Tara, if you hear this and I have your title wrong, I apologize. She said that what the county would fund and where they have allocated money is, and I'm sorry I had to step out and use the restroom, but I believe what Rita was talking about, something similar to the Plainfield Road Community Involvement Plan. The county wants to try to get federal dollars for this project. So to do that, IDOT has to be involved and the federal highways, and I'm looking at Matt, so please, if I'm saying something not true, correct me. So any public involvement plan, they call it a PIP, would have to have IDOT approval. And so for Plainfield Road, what Rita was talking about, they have an 11-page PIP plan. They have a table of contents. They go through who is potentially included in the committee, how long, what resources, the kind of the mission of the group. And so that was approved by IDOT. So if the county is going to be involved and pay, it has to be approved by IDOT. And I had seen your motion, Eileen, and Tara said that the county would not take that to IDOT because IDOT would not approve that. So I think, as Rita was saying, we have a choice that we, the village, could do that and spend our own money, and all the studies or whatever that you want in your motion, we could fund. But if we want the county to fund, they're going to do something like this 11-page, then as an example, like Rita said, it's improveplainfieldroad.org, and it's called Public Involvement Plan, and it's out on the internet, and anybody can see it. And so what they said was it takes a few months to set this up. And then after a few months, then the community outreach starts. Well, I know you're saying, oh, you're laughing and saying that's bureaucracy, but
It is.
to get federal money, that's what they have to do. So we don't have to do that. Again, the board, you 6 trustees can do whatever you want. And so we don't need a resolution. We can say we'll do it ourselves, we'll do it with the county, whatever. But the plan that you presented, I do not believe the county will fund and will participate in. But I don't speak for Tara or Siskellen, but that's in the conversations I've had with that. So again, we can go at our own. That's a choice.
So I want to mention one thing before I get into the committee thing, and that is the plan that, Matt, you put up there is all based on the county standards for this or the IDOC standards for that, and it all includes bike paths. I'm not against bike paths. I just don't think there's room for it on Wolf Road. There just is no room for it. So, I mean, to hold our feet to the fire over things like that is ridiculous. But here's my response to you. Can we get the county to come to our meeting on Thursday? I mean, we're getting all this conflicting information. I'd like to sit down with them and understand what they will, how they will work with us and what they'll fund.
I can talk to the county, but again, if we want to go the route that they have suggested with the public involvement plan, they have identified money and we can start that process. So they have committed to me to doing that. The people that would participate, I can tell you for Plainfield Road, the last page 11, it says the potential list members could include City of Countryside, Township of Lyons, Village of Burr Ridge, Village of Indian Head Park, Village of LaGrange, Village of McCook, Village of Western Springs, DuCage County Division of Transportation, Flag Creek Reclamation District, Forest Preserve District of Cook County, Illinois Department of Transportation, Illinois Tollway, LaGrange Highlands Sanitary District, LaGrange Highlands Civic Association, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, Pace Bus, Pleasant Buyer Protection District, South Lyons Township Sanitary District, Park District of LaGrange, Pleasantdale Park District, St. Cleta School, Timber Trails Homeowners Association, West Conference Municipal Conference, West Suburban Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So of course, this is for Plainfield. Wolf Road would be a different look.
There's no residents listed on there. I didn't hear you say community members.
They had Timber Trails Homeowners Association,
Okay.
and it said representatives from the city. I may not have said that, sorry.
No.
The members could include representatives from City of Countryside, Lions of Township, Village of Burr Ridge. So again, we don't need to take any action. We're not taking any action tonight other than trying to decide, does the board want a referendum? If you do, we need to form it. If you don't, we don't. We can continue the discussions with the county on this committee like they're presenting. And we can talk about other alternatives. I think I've talked to almost each of you about alternatives that the county had discussed, and this is the one that so far they've said they would do.
Well, first of all, can you share that with them, with everybody on the board?
It's online. It's the improved plainfieldroad.org, all one word, and then /public-involvement-plan. And it's an HTML document or a website document. Plainfield Road has a website, and this is one of the documents on the website.
So,
And so we've heard from you and the community about community involvement. We've talked with the county, and the county has identified
no?
money. What?
they said no?
No, I
That's
didn't.
what they're coming up with.
I didn't say they said no. I said they've identified money for a public involvement plan. Again, any plan that the county is going to be involved with, because they want federal money, has to be approved by IDOT.
So will that community involvement plan run parallel to the engineering plans, or will they work together?
I don't know, because it's something that we're talking about, but I would guess, I've heard the county say that this would take 3 months to a year. I think it's closer to a year, long time to do this. Plainfield Road is still happening. So then I would guess that the engineering would have to be delayed, or I don't know what the word is, but I don't see how they could. I think you're asking, can they run parallel? And I don't think so. I don't
Do you know?
Yeah, so if there was a community advisory committee, that would be going on at the same time, and there'd be, I'd say, however the scope of it is determined, there would be periodic meetings at a regular interval where there would be updated step provided, and they would kind of be working together, as you indicated, and not on two separate tracks, only to meet at the end.
Okay, so if you worked with community advisory committees in the past, which would be smaller than what the mayor's referring to?
For a corridor such as Wolf Road that does involve many municipalities and has other stakeholders outside of the Village of Indian Head Park, anything that would be a community advisory group would have to encompass everyone, so that that there's not one small group that could be controlling kind of the direction of the project.
Well, we only want to control what passes through our village. But anyway, I think I need more specific answers to the questions I had in terms of how that committee will function, what their role will be, and how it's going to impact the continuing development of the road. So in other words, if it takes a year, how is it going to, and the engineering continues, that committee's going to have to give feedback, right, to the engineers? Or the engineers part of it? Those are the answers we need. I know you don't know, Tim, but...
I would ask that you look at it. It's very detailed. The IDOT has approved this Public Involvement Plan, or PIP, to use their terminology. And again, this is Plainfield. Wolf would be different, but that is what, at this point, the county has said that they would have money for.
And who was it you talked to there?
Tara Orban.
I would
I
just
think
like
she
to
was
add,
the
if
one
it takes
that's-
several months to get this done, I don't see any, we're not in a hurry. I think we want to do this the right way.
And I think we've heard from the community, and I think that this proposal is something, and to me, we've worked hard on our finances. Rita and I talked today, years to get our finances in the village in order. So I personally would advise the board not to take this on spending our money. I would rather spend the county's money. I know we all pay for that, but looking, Eileen, at what you had put together, some of the things that, it's not vague, I don't know the right word, but if you want a drainage study, that's thousands of dollars, maybe 50,000. I don't know how much.
Well,
And so,
what I anticipated with that committee was that it would take a look at everything that's been done so far and make recommendations. I didn't anticipate any new studies. But if this other committee is going to work better, I'm open to it. So I'd like to take an opportunity to look at the material on it, perhaps call Tara, get more information just to ensure that it's just not another bureaucratic committee that's not going to have any influence on what's being done in our village.
well, again, it's happening right now with Plainfield Road.
Well, let's
So
take a look at
however you call it, it's what's happening. So again, as I said earlier, the board does not need to take action on Thursday night. We do not need to pass a referendum. Again, that was put on the agenda because we had heard that the board wanted to give the county formal feedback, if you will. I've heard from different sources, email went out about a vote on Wolf Road. I want to be clear to the board and residents that we, Indian Head Park, will never get a vote on Wolf Road. It's not like the residents get to vote it down or up, or the board gets to vote it down or up. We can give our feedback, but it's a county road, and so we don't get a vote. So we can be involved in the committee. We can do that. I've heard since it came up, since I've heard committee for the last month, we've talked to the county, and that's what they have today. We don't have to take that. I'm just, not things are changing daily, but there's been several updates in the last week.
Okay, it's just interesting that she told me something different, but maybe
I think you were talking about Kathy, and this is
No,
Tara.
it came from Tara. It was an
Okay.
email from Tara.
All right.
But maybe that's what she was referring to. I don't know. That's why we need clarification.
So
I need
again, getting back to the agenda for tonight, again, this is a village board decision, and we're here to talk about the resolution. If we want to wait for this committee, we don't need to do anything, and we can go home now. If we want to talk about we want 3 lanes or no 3 lanes or not approve this option as presented or whatever we want to say, we can do that, and we're not going to vote tonight, but we could vote Thursday. But hearing that a couple board members may be out, I guess as long as everybody's here, can you raise your hand if you plan to be here on Thursday? So I see 4. Okay. So we can postpone. Again, we don't need to do this. Nobody is forcing this issue. And again, John and I did not know about the people not attending until today, for one, and I just found out now on the other. So
Can I suggest that we delay the vote on any kind of referendum until we do a number of things? One, collect more information on what you just mentioned and what Rita brought up to see if that would be appropriate, and then we can make informed decisions in the July meeting.
John, you corrected me. Can you?
It's a resolution.
Is that a discussion for Thursday night?
The purpose of tonight was to garner more opinion from the board as to what we wanted for a draft resolution to be voted on Thursday night.
Was I saying referendum?
You were saying referendum.
Sorry, so that's my bad mistake, everybody. Not a referendum, resolution.
So, and it's a series of questions to help me form the resolution for Thursday night. So it depends on the feedback tonight. Then tomorrow morning I would prepare a draft resolution, get it out to you for your consideration Thursday night. We have 2 resolutions on the agenda for Thursday night. One was added today with a revised agenda. Third order of new business would be, should we establish a citizens advisory committee? And that's for discussion. And then following that is the resolution regarding, that started off as opposing 5 lanes. Now, at the last board meeting, the board was directed me to prepare a list of questions to drill down to get more feedback rather than just, oh, we're opposing 5 lanes. Now, it's not a symbolic gesture. The county does take this to heart, and they've taken all of our comments to heart, and we've had conversations about multiple alternatives that are on the table, so to speak. The county has their standards, but they look for significant input from the village. So I was hoping to get more information to prepare a resolution. So I had a list of questions to help me prepare that resolution. You don't have to do the resolution tomorrow night. You could
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
I know
my
I
bad.
started it. My bad.
The most appropriate thing to do would be to vote to table the resolution because it's on the agenda. You just can't ignore it. So one option would be to table it to either the July meeting or August meeting or indefinitely for each of the resolutions. That's purely your prerogative.
So hearing that again, we're not voting tonight, but is there any direction that the board would like to take at this point?
Yeah, I'd like to speak. First of all, I want to preface it with that we are your neighbors. We live here too. We don't live in a different town. We are affected by this as much as everybody else is. We want to improve safety in the town. All we were ever looking for was sidewalks, these multi-use paths. I'm not sure they were a part of the entire study, as we learned. But we can recommend that we don't want multi-use path. Personally, I'd like to see a 3-lane option with sidewalks on either side. To me, that's ideal. That covers what we need to do. Hopefully we'd have crosswalks along the way. I would like to see landscaping minimized, the impact on the landscaping minimized as much as possible. I'm a tree lover. This board has also committed.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry,
Chris.
this board has also committed to set aside money for landscaping on Wolf Road after any rebuild ever happens. So it's not something that we're taking lightly. We want to make sure that the village looks nice. We enjoy the way it looks too. I personally don't like buckthorn and invasive species, cottonwood, those sorts of things. It'd be nice to have some sort of an inventory of what kind of trees are there. I've asked already, do we know what will be affected? So we do have a ways to go here, but we're getting there. We are listening to you. Please know that, and that's all I have for tonight.
Can I just follow up with what I said before? Can we table or pass the resolutions to July or August while we gather more information? Because I liked what Chris just said. We can incorporate that into a resolution, what we want, what we don't want, but also incorporate into it the citizen involvement. And we don't know what that's going to look like right now. So I would like to push back the...
But right now, for what we're asking is for this board to commit to what, or not even commit, say at this point what you think you would like to see on Wolf Road. Would you like to see nothing happen? Would you like to see the 5-lane proposal, which I don't think anybody wants? Do you want the 3-lane? Do you want 3-lane with the multi-use and a sidewalk, or do you want 2 sidewalks? You want 1 sidewalk? Let's give that kind of feedback so we know where we can go with this.
So my opinion is I would like to do a resolution to eliminate the 5-lane, and that because nobody wants that, and that we could do that as a separate resolution. And then also too, it's important because even Matt had said that the pedestrian pathway does not include sidewalks. So I think for the questionnaire, it needs to be updated as far as, do we want sidewalks? Yes or no? Do we want a multi-purpose? Yes or no? And that's so majority of the questions in the last 2 pages need to really be updated, and then we could bring that at the next meeting. In the,
Brenda, can I ask you a question?
in the July or August meeting, yes.
Brenda, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
With the confusion between shared use, bike path, pedestrian path, sidewalk, everything, are you more concerned with the size that you'd like to drill down? So rather than try to get a verbiage of what we're calling it, like, what's your end goal, I guess is what I'm asking. So is it that you don't like the 10-foot, let's get it
It's not my end goal, it's what the community wants, and and if you want my opinion, what the opinion of the community is, they don't want a multi-purpose lane.
Okay. So what I'm here, we can say that, right?
So that's what you
Yeah,
don't want, but what do you want?
Right. So,
I'm open to sidewalks,
Okay.
absolutely.
so again, I guess my question to you is, rather than try to figure out what we're calling it, because that seems to be an issue up over and over again. We called it a sidewalk master plan. Now all of a sudden it's got a bike path, a shared use path, a pedestrian path. Let's just talk about the sizes. Let's say what we're opposed or
I
negative
like
to.
it just to be very clear, because it's going to come back to haunt us. If we use the pedestrian pathway, it's going to come back to no, you voted on that. No, I didn't vote on that. I wanted sidewalks, or the community wanted sidewalks. They didn't want a pedestrian pathway.
All right, so can we have that in? List all three: bike path, pedestrian path, sidewalk. Which one do you want?
Well,
Yes, yes, no.
again,
Sizes.
what Brenda is referring to is a tool to help the board try to get to what they want. So if you want a sidewalk, you can call it a sidewalk, and we're for a sidewalk. And whether that's a sidewalk on one side or both, we can work on the exact language. But again, I'm not trying to push it. I'm not pressuring the board to do anything. But if you want a resolution, we need some direction on what that resolution says.
I agree with Eileen in regards to trying to design the Wolf Road at this point in time, is that we don't have enough information, and we need to assimilate a lot of the comments that we've heard here. Frankly, the special steering committee and whatever format it takes is the only thing I'm in favor of at the present time.
Okay, so I don't hear consensus for a, what?
Caution. My advice, or my opinion, is possibly the sooner you get out your comments to the county, the more they can have time to respond to. I think waiting a year or a day before the final report is due might be too late. So I would encourage you to
When is it due?
I'm just thinking that the faster or quicker you can speak to the county now about your grave concerns.
Well, Brenda asked for copies of the letters. That's a great concern. We should receive those.
And I will ask the county about that first thing tomorrow morning.
You've got someone right to your right who's got all the copies right there, and there's no reason why that can't be distributed.
Yeah, Charlie, without the letters, I think we still know what the public want. We've listened to their public comments quite a few times, and I believe we really do understand. We need to have it in writing too. I'm sure you've been on these committees, I believe, and I'm sure people have told you. People have told us. I know what they want. Why do we need it in writing? Why do we need every single comment? I mean, I'd like to see it too, but I think we can make some decisions now without that.
I think we're missing the main point of what 700 people signed in a petition, which was let's have a steering committee to completely analyze these, and that precludes the board from making those decisions. It says that we need a committee of the citizens of Indian Head Park to participate in that, and that's not there.
All right, so what I'm hearing is no consensus for a resolution for Thursday. So I think what we will do is have it on the agenda, and if somebody wants to table it, is that the right parliamentary procedure? Then that can be done at the Thursday meeting, right? Because we can't make that decision tonight, right? Because we're not in the Thursday meeting. And I guess I would want to hear in some fashion what the board wants to do regarding the county and the public involvement plan. I don't know if there's consensus to push forward with that. I think there might be, but I hear a couple board members saying that they want more IHP centric, I think, if that's a fair word to use. So again, it's up to the board. What, any decision, because at some point we need to say yes or no, and right now it's kind of an offer and there's no yes or no. And again, we're not going to vote on that. I'm just looking for some consensus to either do that or not do that.
Well, I just, as I keep saying, I'd like the next 2 days to look at the information on this PIP
Okay.
thing and then make decisions. And if I
Great.
have questions of the county, I'd like to forward them to you, or I'll contact Tara myself to find out more about it.
Perfect. That's good. Everybody agree with that? Or is that
Yes, I agree with that.
okay? So are we good for tonight? Anything else, John? Do we have, I know we got public comments again, but any other business for now? I think we got Brenda's comments about terminology on the matrix or the sheet, but I don't know if that's needed because we're not going to do it for Thursday. So I don't know if there's an urgency to do it in the next couple of days. I'm looking at you, Brenda.
No. It's fine. And the reason why I wanted to clarify, because John had put on here, pedestrian pathway means either sidewalk or multi-use pathway. So that's why I wanted the clarification. So that's fine.
Any chance the county can join us on Thursday?
I can talk to them. I don't know. Don't want to speak for them. My guess is no, but because I think that they are happy to be involved in a structured, like the public involvement plan or the town hall. But, they didn't come tonight because schedule conflict and this is a village issue. So I will talk to the county.
Well, I would like them there more to answer to questions about community involvement, not specifically about this project. That's fine, I understand that, sort of. But I'd just like to know more about community involvement.
Is it fair to, I think you said you would look at this plan.
Yeah.
And then maybe we talk about it Thursday, but I will ask if somebody can come to the meeting on Thursday.
To fill in the details, right.
But in my conversations with them, they are not direct, and I appreciate working with the county. I don't know what decisions or what bureaucracy or what levels of agreement they have, but I have, like I said, they have identified money for this public involvement plan, and we talked about other alternatives. So I would say if we want to go forward with this, then we get serious and start talking about the details. And I don't know that they are going to do that until we say we're serious and want to go forward, but I can ask. And I think you said you may talk to Tara, so you can go right to the source yourself.
So well.
All right, so I think we're done. Looking at everybody, okay, I think we beat it to enough. All right, so we're at the point in the agenda. John, you okay? To public comments. If you want, in the back in the green, if you don't mind coming to the podium and speaking into the microphone. Again, we're recording this and I think broadcasting it at the time. YouTube.
I'll be famous. Thank all you guys. You've done a lot of work tonight. You've been patient with us, and I appreciate it. So that's number one. The one question that
It was Steve, right?
Steve Schmidt.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
Blackhawk, yes. The study that Strand produced does not, in my opinion, does not address when he puts in curbs and gutters. Okay. What he does is he makes a long funnel that's going to take all this water that's falling on the road, and it's right now that goes off the road and goes onto soil where it gets absorbed. then it's gonna come off and go into a gutter. It's gonna go into a sewer, right? Tell me.
Yeah,
Okay.
a storm sewer, yes.
Okay, so the storm sewer, if you look, we're up high in this one side here. It's gonna, if you go down towards Joliet Road, it goes downhill.
Yes.
And water goes down, all right? And you've got curb and gutter, so it's gonna have this load of water that's maybe an inch of water and a mile.
I think you're getting to a problem at the bottom of the hill.
And I can address that.
And we have a problem at the bottom of the hill today, and that is in the Cook County.
Hazard mitigation plan that's already been identified by the village. It's ongoing. And it's also part of the transportation resiliency plan that is being funded by CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Area for Planning, through the Council of Mayors that the village is part of. We've identified the intersection of Wolf and Joliet as a hazardous area. One of the issues is there's stormwater runoff from the state of Illinois property, the vacant lot that they don't maintain, that I trespass and have the village staff cut weeds down. There's a water that will overtop the gutter at the northeast corner of Wolf and Joliet. We've identified that. We're looking to talk to the state about making that a retention basin. Detention basin. Thank you. And to further help alleviate the flooding issue at Wolf and Joliet.
Yep.
But
so now, the other issue
This is
is...
gonna
with-
make it worse, though, is what I'm
No.
saying.
No, we're trying to make it better.
It will be better
What I'm saying
because,
is that the road that you're proposing with.
and what you're saying, right, all the water runs down.
Right.
All the water will get to the creek, but like we have done at Acacia, and I know several people in this room have heard me say it many times, we put a big underground storage tank under Acacia Drive so that when it rains heavy, that fills up, so it stays in there and then it's released. So all water will go down the hill, but with the new system that they use for stormwater retention, detention, it'll be saved and then released at a different level. So yes, it all goes down, but not straight down the hill.
And Illinois
Until the
drainage
tank
law.
is full.
Yeah,
Illinois,
and the tank is big enough to handle the 20 feet. I know you're shaking your head, not sure, but MWRD will not approve it without it matching their standards, and I know we've heard that. So, you know, they don't want flooding. They're the organization in this area that handles that. So they have to approve it. And so it goes through several agencies, and I think Matt named 4 or 5 for stormwater. So hopefully we addressed your question.
okay,
Yeah,
so
I wanna
Illinois
know that
drainage law
Stein did.
prohibits increasing the flow, the volume or velocity of water going downstream. So they'll have to design a system to accommodate that so we don't flood Wolf and Joliet and we don't dump it further on Flag Creek faster and more volume, because then we would impact the people in Indian Woods Drive, the very southern end of the village. So it's complicated, lots of issues, but they have to address it. Now, the basin or the catch basins that the mayor just referred to on Acacia, we've never really had flooding problems on Acacia, especially in the area. Not severe flooding. Amy, correct?
There's one on the corner, but yeah.
It's some small one. But
Right.
the catch basins we had to put in were ginormous, and we had to put in 14 of them.
There was 400 feet of box culvert that got installed.
And those of you who live on
And the
Acacia,
box culvert is 8 by 8, I believe.
It's either 6 by 8 or it's an 8 by 5 box culvert. Those got installed to meet the current standards for MWRD. When that development was approved, before even any homes were built, MWRD allowed stormwater management to occur on the roadway at levels that are unacceptable today. So in order to still provide that stormwater management, we had to place it underground as opposed to in the roadway.
Okay, in any case, I'm just concerned about if you, next time you drive from, Plainfield down to Joliet Road, imagine that as a funnel. And I didn't hear Strand address that at all in their presentation.
I can provide a quick answer on that. The current stormwater system being an open drainage, an open ditch along Wolf Road, that water runoff flows unrestricted all the way down the hill to the issue that Mr. DeRocher spoke about.
The storm sewer that will be in place will control that release and will no longer be free flowing all the way down the hill until it hits the bottom of the hill.
Except that it's inside the sewer going.
But there's design methods that we utilize to control the speed or the velocity of that water throughout the pipes to control that release at the end point where it then ultimately discharges where it discharges now.
What diameter pipes are you planning to install?
That will all be decided in design 2, the phase 2 of the project. We are preliminary engineering, and until a roadway corridor and width and the design parameters are defined, we do not do stormwater design because it's a waste of money.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Excuse me, just asking.
Be next.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for listening to all of us, and wanted to say that we're going to continue coming to the meetings. The Wolf Road Advocacy Group will continue participating, at least through public comments, but we would like to participate in the PIP if you decide to go through a PIP, or at least as a community advisory committee. We do not believe that we should be spending any money from the town when you already spend the money for Strand to do all of those studies that they're supposed to be doing.
The county
And so we
has.
just, yeah, exactly. So we just want to see what is it that the studies say and have an opinion. And to those that want to have some sort of participation in the Wolf Road Advocacy Group and want to get updates from us, if you want to sign up, we'll update you on what we are update on when we participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Jack Brandish from Acacia. Considering that it's been taking about 2 years to finish, or will finish, the Acacia road project, how long is it going to take Alternative 2 to finish? It's taken 2 years for Acacia Drive.
I can answer that. In talking to the county preliminary, again, it's not been funded, it hasn't been designed, but they were thinking the Plainfield to 79th Street may be broken up into 3 phases. There's a bridge near the middle that is almost a phase by itself. It may be over 10 years. So do one segment for 3 years or 2 years, and then another segment. So it's not going to happen.
So it'd be a 10-year project for
It
alternative.
could be. You asked, and that's the
Alternative
best.
2.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
10 years, people. 10 years.
Well, if you don't do anything, the road's going to deteriorate, and then you can't. Okay, but any alternative is going to need new pavement. It's going to be down to the base level. It's going to be the whole thing. Okay.
Okay, I take exception to these numbers of people who communicated through surveys, because I personally know probably 100 people that communicated through the village with Sean Morrison, with Strand Associates. And I know I probably submitted 10 comments myself. I really dispute these numbers. And the fact that you're minimizing and saying that resident comments sent in aren't important and not important for all of the trustees to see so that you can make an educated decision on our behalf is a travesty. An absolute travesty. You're supposed to be advocating for us, not saying, oh, I'll ask the county. Tell the county. That's what we're paying you for. Thank you.
We're not being paid.
She was directing us at me.
It's Karen Kaufman again. I'll be quick. The only thing I want to say is I think we need to be clear that I don't believe anyway, in terms of communication, that communication's been as great as it should be. I don't believe that sending a notice out saying that there's an open house is notifying 100+ residents along Wolf Road what's happening to them. So I think that needs to really be taken into consideration. People don't always look at their mail as often as they should. The other part of it is, Rita, I know you're working on a communication committee. I would like to be a part of that communication committee because I don't think mail works. Simplicity is great, but I think that the last meeting, one of you guys said there's only 500 people that are signed up for Simplicity right now, and we've got 4,000 residents. So I think we've got to figure out a better way to make sure that our residents hear what's happening, because unless I go knocking door to door, I know that that petition would have had more names if I had just gone knocking door to door, but I didn't have the time. So I think if there's a better way for us to communicate to our residents to make sure that they hear what's happening, I think you're going to get more feedback than you have in the past.
Can I ask
or in
a
the
quick
future.
question?
Mhm.
The board has kind of talked or kicked around the electronic sign, like out here in front of the Highlands. We've talked about 1, 2, 3 of those. What are your thoughts on that? And you don't have to answer. I just, as long as, you seem, and that would be another, not that we're giving up on Simplicity, not that we're giving up the website, not that we're giving up on smoke signals.
Yeah, I like Simplicity personally. I mean, I do get the information from there. That's good. I don't know. I will tell you that depending upon what the sign looks like. I will tell you right now that I stand on my patio and I have to look at that doggone vapes and tobacco sign, and it kills me every time I stand on my patio because that's all I see. So I want to make sure that it's a sign that's not as horrendous as that
Gaudy.
sign, because it really is, it does affect me. But in terms of what it is, I mean, I'm open to talking through different ideas, if it's bigger signs, but I think that the people in the back of at least my area where I live, I don't know that they see information. So how can we make sure that the people back, and I think, Brenda, you live kind of back there, right? So how do we make sure that people back there are hearing and seeing what's happening? Because I know we don't go by the village.
It's
at
a
all.
problem, not a problem.
Struggle with that.
It's
I know.
something we work on, all the time, and
No, and I get it, and I understand it's a problem. I mean, in the world I'm in, communication, there's so many times people say I didn't know. Well, I sent it, I did it. I get it. I want to help. I want to see how I can help, and I want to see if I can bring other people along with me to see what we can do.
Great. Please send me an email with your contact information.
All right, thanks.
I'm in the communications business in New York City and here, and you do multi-channel communication.
do you mind
email,
saying your name one more
Marcia
time?
Stepanek,
Sorry.
Acacia, and you do multi-channel. Everybody does it: email, newsletter, text. Everybody, if we don't pay our bills on time, you guys can find us really easily. I think this is something you can find us really easily about too. So I think that could be like a vote where people would really know what's going on. And
I get email, text, and your third one, letter, because I've signed up. So those are all out there. It's just getting everybody to sign up.
right, so you have to tell people that they can sign up to something.
Yep.
And so I don't think everybody knows they can do that yet.
Yeah.
So
No, that
I think
is a struggle.
That's
yes.
really important.
I agree.
And then, thank you also, all of you, for putting up with us. But yes, we are a public voice. One last thing, I think we're assuming in this survey that purpose and need identification has been established. And I think from the conversation by people, it has not been established because it hasn't been fully heard. So please take some more time to get more impact. Because once you have people with you, everything goes much easier. But if you don't have people with you, this whole thing's going to continue to not be going very well.
Can I
Thank
say
you.
something? It's so nice to see people come out to our meetings, because ordinarily at a regular meeting, maybe 1 or 2 people, literally. I mean, that's it. So I encourage everybody to come to our meetings.
Every second Thursday of the month at 7 o'clock.
Lee Cocanda, Ashbrook. My wife and I moved here 25 years ago, and we loved it, Indian Head Park. But why? The county could care less what we as residents think. Why is that when we pay for their salaries? And they could care less what we think about should be done. Can you answer that? And
Sir.
why can't you do more on our behalf?
Sir, I respectfully disagree with you on that. I think that the county has been very...
They could care less about Wolf Road. They could care less about any one of us here. Let's face facts.
Sir, I respectfully disagree with you on that. I think the county has been very amenable to our phone calls, to our concerns.
Nobody here wants what they want done, but yet they're going to do it. It's not going to affect their lives. It's going to affect our lives. It's going to affect your lives, right?
As we've said time and time again, it's a county road.
We pay their salary.
So does everybody else in the county. The question is,
They're not living in Indian Head Park. We are. They're not tearing up the roads in Western Springs. They want to do it here. If we were Western Springs, would this be happening? No. Bottom line. Nothing to help us whatsoever.
Amy Jo Wittenberg, 6120 Timber Ridge Court. I firmly believe that the village has to set a strong tone with the county. We have to tell them in whatever formal way that we are against the 5-lane and we are against the 3-lane as it is currently presented. For a variety of reasons, we have mulled over now for 4 or 5 meetings. I think we all know what the issue is, or the issues. The village has to tell the county what has been communicated to them. And I don't think there's a question. Maybe there's some little questions about what we said, but I don't think there's many questions. And I think you have on the agenda for a vote to happen on Thursday, if I am not mistaken, for the 5-lane option, correct?
That is currently I'm going to make sure I get the right word, resolution.
You have a resolution to, what was the right term? Eliminate it, be against it? What's the term?
We oppose the
oppose it.
5-lane
Okay.
I don't know if there's
alternative.
an adjective. for
So
it.
I would suggest we oppose, as I said last meeting, definitively, oppose the 5-lane, oppose the 3-lane as presented by Strand Engineering. We want an alternative. We will get an alternative to you over the next 3 months that the people in Indian Head Park, the stakeholders agree with. We have paid $1.3 million for 8 studies for Strand to do hydrology, drainage, pedestrian this, pedestrian that. We have studied this. Where are the studies? Have we gone through the studies? Have we seen the studies? You have the studies. Let's decide what we want. Let's tell the county we don't want what we just said we don't want. We don't want the 5-lane. We don't want the 3-lane. Most of us want a 3-lane road with some designated turn lanes, not a 2-way lane in some cases because people have issues. They want a protected pedestrian area, and they want sidewalks, alternating or not. How hard is it to get a plan with those characteristics that we've talked about? How hard is it? They're a national engineering company. Why couldn't they take these 5 criteria we have and use those to create a third alternative? Probably they could do it on the back of a barroom napkin right now.
We're working on that, Amy. They are
Right.
working on that.
So why can't we see that quickly so we can understand how much, they didn't say what the width would be for a
it's not-
third alternative.
It's not ready yet.
Right, well, they showed us this with, do another street mix. I've used street mix now, I've gotten very good at it, right? You guys use it all the time. Why didn't they have a street mix and say, you know what? We heard your communication and we did a street mix. I did one in 5 minutes, Chris. Go on the street mix site and see what you can do. To create a road with a sidewalk on both sides, maybe with dedicated turn lanes and 2 lanes. Why couldn't we try to do that on the back of a napkin and talk about it? And then ask them, is this a viable option, Strand? Is this viable, county? Does this meet your needs?
It is a viable option, and you could ask that question right now and get an answer. I'm sure they would tell you,
So
yes,
why
it's a
are
viable option.
we could do a PIP? And the other thing I would like to ask is, were we asked to do a PIP? I saw in the meeting minutes very, very early on, if the village wanted the county to fund a communications consultant for this project. I'd like to know, did they want us to, did they actually ask us to do a PIP?
I do not believe so.
Okay, because I saw reference to using the consultant that they used for Wolf Road, or for Plainfield Road, And we said we didn't think we needed that.
That was for the
Public meeting.
public meeting, and it was for the presentation, or it wasn't for a committee, the public involvement
PIP.
plan? Yeah,
Okay,
the
because
PIP.
that was in the minutes. I've read every minute on this committee, this whole thing. So please, I know everybody wants most of the same things. We really do. Why can't we get to an easy solution quicker that they can then legitimize from an engineering standpoint and a safety standpoint? I think that would serve everybody very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Good evening, Patricia Chipetta from Acacia. So I got a question for board members here. How many of you guys actually live on Wolf Road or actually close to Wolf Road that this is going to be impacting you? Can any of you say yes to this? Thank you.
I think technically everybody.
No, none of you. So when you took this in consideration and thought about this whole great plan to get funding from the county, you didn't think about it because you don't live there. It doesn't impact you. You don't see what's going to happen. Your privacy is not gone from you. You still can live in your wonderland. The rest of us can't.
I have to object to that because I live down on Keokuk. I live right by the tollway. Tollway's wide open right now. MWRD has come down and cut down bushes in there. I understand what you guys are going to be going through.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And Strand, you keep saying you send surveys to people that live on Wolf Road. What about those that actually face Wolf Road also? That it's not just the people that reside directly on Wolf Road, but a little bit beyond that. Why didn't you send it to them? Why weren't they told about this? Why weren't they getting surveys? Why weren't they talked to?
Yeah, so I guess we did not send any specific surveys to the people that live along Wolf Road. The direct mailings that they received were the invites to the public information meeting.
Okay, but they received that direct mailing, but the rest did not though. People that are just right there near Wolf Road are also impacted. Why didn't they receive it? Why was it just residents on Wolf Road?
Because I think that when you're looking at, where does the level of impact stop? There could be people that live 2 miles away that would be impacted because they may pass through the corridor. So at least,
I live in Acacia. There's cul-de-sacs, and those cul-de-sacs still see Wolf Road. We are impacted by that. Why were we not talked about or sent notices about coming to meetings and talked to about this as well?
Because we did advertise in other formats other than the direct mailings. It was mentioned at the village board meetings. We advertised in newspaper twice. So there's other options or other routes that we went to advertise the meetings, in addition to the direct mailings to the people that their direct property was along Wolf Road.
Smoke signals, we had notices in smoke signals. We also did it through our electronic media.
There's also been new residents that were never notified to. You probably should start considering that as well. Oh, God. You got nothing but oh, Godding back there. And then who put up the signs along Wolf Road that talked about no trucks, and then there's a Strand logo? Was it Strand? We're just curious who put those up.
There was never a Strand logo.
Go ahead, you can take this.
Wait, if you don't mind Jill coming, or
She can come in.
you
with
can't.
it. Yeah, she can take it over.
We have to have the
She can take it over.
microphone.
Okay, Jill Cox again. The day after the town hall meeting, all of a sudden, right along this school, and all along the road were signs with your logo, and it said "Safe Path to Schools, call," and it had the thing for us to do, the thing that we did the email for. It was a direct target to families that live by here that have nothing to do with Wolf Road. It was a direct marketing ploy to say, oh yeah, we want a safe path to school. None of these, not to people that were at the meeting. It was literally the same wording that it had on the email that we were supposed to send our opinions to, all along, right here on Plainfield by the school, all these things saying safe path to schools, email this number, this email. So your results are skewed because you're going to get a whole bunch of young families here at Highlands that don't even know what's going on, but they saw this little sign while they're waiting for their kids to be picked up and emailed. And so that is a skewed thing. And I agree with the lady who said way back when, that very first time you ever said something to us and said, the little survey of do you want sidewalks? Really, I remember looking at it, reading it, and saying, oh, great, everyone's going to say yes because they don't understand. You're not saying, do you want to chop down a bunch of trees, make a huge road, put in this, put in that. All it said was, do you want some sidewalks? Anybody would be like, oh, sure, let's get some sidewalks. And that's how your 20% or 7% or whatever the heck you're saying, 70% from the initial said yes.
I can say unequivocally that Strand did not authorize or put up any signs with our logo on.
Okay, anybody else?
Someone did. It was not by Strand.
I'm from Wilshire Green.
Can you speak into the mic? I'm sorry.
I'm from Wilshire Green. My
Thank
name
you.
is Patty McWade. I've been listening to everybody, and I'm new to this, and my heart goes out to people who live along Wolf Road. But I'm for progress. I do not like the term, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We do need to maintain our community and our homes. And also, that's just one statement I want to make, change is good. And in regards to paths and bikes, we do need to make room for bikes. Children are going to ride their bikes on the sidewalks. I drive every morning to work down Wolf Road in front of this school. I see 50 to 100 bikes out front, and I see little children on their bikes on Wolf Road with near misses. And it's very concerning to watch that, and I ride a bike. So please consider bikes. That's it.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.
Nick Vasty from Timber Ridge Court again. I guess I have some questions for Strand, Matt. In the pamphlet you guys gave out, draft April 1st for Indian Head Park, you had intersection crash rates. The only one that was over 1 was Joliet Road. Basically every intersection was a crash rate of 0.2 or less, with the exception of, again, Joliet. 79th Street, I-294 South, which were 0.27 and 0.3. Yet there's no consideration of a two-way left turn lane that part of Joliet. North of Joliet, Acacia Drive has a 0.28. I don't understand the data that says it's telling you that you need a two-way left turn lane. It looks like your report says if it's over 1. Most of these were less than 0.2. Can you answer that one?
Yep, I can. So first off, I'll say that the report that you have, I think it's April 1st, 2021, there is a later version of that was prepared in October of 2021. So I'd say in the most recent version of that, there is a comparison that does not focus on the metric that you're referencing, but it focuses on the segment crash rate compared to the statewide average. And for the segments that we looked at, I think it was Joliet to Plainfield, and then like Joliet to 79th, and then south to 79th.
And that's also in here. But in both of those segments, Joliet is included. If you excluded Joliet and you went, I don't have my map in front of me, from Cochise to Sequoia, what is the segment crash rate for that segment?
Yep, and obviously I don't have that report in front of me right now, but we can get that to the village to post on their website, which has the information including Joliet Road intersection and then also excluding the intersection. Because as you mentioned, that intersection had something like 70% of the crashes for the overall.
And it already has 4 left turn lanes.
Yes.
1 in each direction.
And then to another point that you mentioned of down near, I think you mentioned like 72nd and the 294 off ramp or on ramp. Those areas do have, in the alternatives, they do have a two-way left turn lane, but maybe in that area it doesn't need to be a two-way left turn lane if there's nothing on the left side of the street. Let's say there's only something only on the right side, so maybe it would be striped as not available for turn or a dedicated left turn lane.
But I'm thinking like Amy says, we have a handful of left turn lanes between Cochise and Plainfield that are dedicated left turn lanes for single left turn as opposed to a two-way left turn lane. To me, that feels safer. I mean, I know, and you say that, I mean, a two-way left turn lane, I suppose you want to improve safety and traffic flow, right? In my mind, like a bunch of us talk, if you have a left turn lane or no left turn lane and a car has to stop to turn left, that's slowing down traffic, which I think is kind of one of our goals. We don't really want to increase the speed of traffic through the corridor here. And I know for a fact, with a two-way left turn lane and even with just the single left turn lanes, people will come from way back. They will go across the double yellow line. It will become a passing lane. That is for sure. I mean, if any of you have driven around, like I live at the corner at Plainfield and Wolf, there are cars that start all the way back at the bottom of the hill to make that left turn. And they're like, I have been to turn into my subdivision, which is a left turn only, there's no left turn lane there. People have passed me on the left to go around. I mean, they're out of their mind. I don't know how they do that. So I just think adding a two-way left turn lane, it's excessive. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Nick. Anybody else? Debbie.
Hi, I too would like to thank all of you for taking all the time to listen to us this evening. Just a couple of comments on the Strand presentation. The term manual, that there was a manual that kind of laid out what this, according to our manual, this is what we should do, and according to the manual, this is what is acceptable. And I would just say that, not everything fits in a manual, and I think we do have a really unique situation here. I agree with what Nick just said about the left turn lanes. It lets traffic go faster, and it makes it less safe for pedestrians to cross, because regardless of what we have on either side, the east side or the west side or both sides of Wolf Road, pedestrians are still going to need to go across from Acacia to the other side and vice versa. And that left turn lane does make it more dangerous. As far as truck traffic, I think the issue with truck, and I could be wrong, I don't know, but from what I understand, the issue with the trucks is not the size of the lanes necessarily, but the fact that that intersection at Joliet and Wolf is going to make it so that those 65-foot trucks can make that turn that today they can't make. And that just makes them it makes Wolf Road more accessible to them, regardless of, whether they say they're going to do it or not. We all know. If there is, I know because I live on Wolf Road, if there is an accident on 294, Wolf Road is the bypass street. So when I see that the cars are stopped on Wolf Road in front of my house, I know that there's a traffic problem somewhere else. Trucks are going to use that alternative as well if they can make that turn. But also in the Strand presentation, you talked about the big three, which are drainage, truck traffic, and turn lanes. The trees, that's a big one too. So an accounting of what we're going to lose, I think, is really important for the residents here to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, before you go, just, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, at the intersection that you're talking about, are those triangles going back in?
I think what you're referring to is the corner islands that were there up until, I don't know what year it was, but
5-6 years
have since
ago.
been removed. So we believe that those will have to be put back so that there is a refuge for pedestrians to get across the intersection. So that could be something that would be a perception of a narrower route for a truck.
Okay, so in the crossing of the Joliet Road is, that's just nothing I would ever attempt. But it's the crossing of Wolf Road with the left turn lanes that I think, I cross Wolf Road a lot. I'm a runner. All over all the time. And I've been timing it, the last month or so. I time how long it takes before I have to, before there's no traffic and I can walk safely across without trying to run across. And I time how long it takes me to walk across 2 lanes versus 3 lanes. And it's a significant difference, you know, and it is more dangerous to cross 3 lanes than it is to cross 2 lanes.
Which is why those islands go back in.
But that's
because then
only
you
at
have
Joliet. I'm
Right.
just talking about, so there's 2 different issues. One is the trucks that, and I don't know how those islands affect anything, but I don't think the islands were drawn in the drawing that we saw.
Were they?
No.
Yes, they were.
Were they?
Yes.
So
Okay.
those islands were originally taken out because it was more difficult for the trucks to make those turns.
But I think what Debbie is talking about recently in your part was the crossing, say, from 45 acres to Acacia.
45 acres to Acacia. I go from Indian Ridge over to Old Town. I go from Ashbrook over, you know, all those areas. It really, honestly, I mean, for 28 years I've been going across Wolf Road, and when it's 2 lanes, and when cars can't pass one another, it's much safer than when it's 3 lanes. We have a home on Plainfield Road as well, and that's got that 2-way turn lane, and I can't tell you how dangerous that thing is. The people that use it as a passing lane. And in pedestrians, especially young, I mean, I'm an adult, a young child going across Wolf Road, and they're gonna cross Wolf Road. If we have more ways for them to travel up and down Wolf Road, they're gonna go across Wolf Road. And there's not gonna be a crosswalk, and if there's a turn lane, it's not safe. It's not safer.
Thank you.
Do this all together, Sean, because I know you talked about trucks. There is a need for you, we've heard through IDOT, to be able to support the 65-foot truck to make the turn into Joliet Road because it's a truck route, correct? You have to have the width on Wolf Road to support a turn onto Joliet.
Correct.
Okay. You also have a turn from Plainfield onto Wolf going south that today is not a safe turn for a 65-foot truck. They can't make the turn safely. We see that. And when they get into the predicament, they can't make a safe turn. The point, Sean, that I want to make sure you have in your mind, it's not just Joliet Road we're speaking of. It's the current turn onto Wolf Road the truck cannot make today that they will be able to make when you widen the road. Okay? So you are indeed not only creating a legal turn, a safe turn for the truck at Joliet and Wolf, you are creating a safe turn at Wolf and Plainfield going south on Wolf Road. Is that correct?
I would say the intersection at Plainfield is actually a part of the Plainfield Road study, led by another consultant, but also Cook County. But yes, I would imagine that the improvements that they're doing at Plainfield will make it so that the truck can make the turn.
Correct. So what I want to make sure everybody knows on 2 independent projects, that because the trucker can make that right turn, they have a computer, a trip computer, that now will not tell them to go that way because the route isn't safe for them to make that turn. When the road gets widened, those computers through AI will give them the ability to make that turn because the roadway's been expanded. So not all trucks have that computer system. Some are what Debbie said, when there's they're on their CB or whatever, telling people there's a traffic accident. But I want you to know it's not just the width of Joliet and Wolf, it's the width of Wolf and Plainfield. And they can't make the turn now, and they will be able to make the turn. And that's right near where our kids are, Sean.
I understand what you're
so
saying.
I want you to understand
where
that.
Are the trucks coming from and going to? That
They
all of
have
a
the
sudden-
ability. 65-foot trucks, and Angelo
Okay.
Christopher
Okay,
made this.
Amy,
Angelo Christopher told you all that any truck can leave the roadway for 6 reasons: rest, deliveries, fuel, and there's a fuel place going in Countryside. If they want to go off.
So they can
of
go down. They can go down Joliet Road.
You don't know
and
where
go
they're
to-
going to go. If they can go 5
All right, you
miles
don't know
in
where
any
they are
direction.
gonna go
Sean,
either.
let
Okay.
Amy finish. I think you're over your 3 minutes
Yes,
for your
I am.
second time.
But
so
I want you
slipped
to,
up.
to bring that into your mind, please.
Thank you. Sean, if you want to be heard, you should be in the microphone.
We heard from the engineering tonight in the presentation that there is no expectation, and I will also say that Cook County has said the same thing, there is no expectation that truck traffic will increase on Wolf Road due to this project.
Okay,
So-
anybody else for a comment? Yes, okay, this is our second,
Yeah, very quickly. Sean mentioned that those islands were taken out so the trucks could turn. And my neighbor Angela says they were taken out because the truck trailers kept knocking the lights over. So if you make it to where they can turn, they will turn and use Wolf Road. It will happen. I will make you as much money a bet you want to make, and you will owe me.
Okay, anybody else? I think we're at the end. Do we need a motion for adjournment? Would somebody like to make a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris and Rita. Voice vote, okay, John? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes, all opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.